Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Tesla Life number 120, October 23rd. Already, man, we're getting close to Halloween. It's only like a week away.
Yeah.
And today, we've got Mr. Casey Green joining us from a new blurred room.
It's the same room, just turned around and blurred
You're just
again.
adding stuff to it, so that's fantastic. Things are adding. Very good. Very good. How are you today, sir?
Okay. I've got service scheduled tomorrow. I get a new battery for my Model X. 12-volt battery. Yep.
Okay.
But my car will continue to summon
Speaking of
again.
service, we'll talk a little bit about my road trip. But on return to the road trip, I had to go in for service as well. I had an issue with an upper control arm.
Wow.
Had to be replaced.
Why?
And apparently, it's quite common with the Model 3.
That just because yours is older, or
they said that a number of the first runs had to have this replaced. I'm trying to find out more. Actually, you, the audience, if you know anything about your upper control arm being replaced, send us a note on Twitter at the Tesla Life or through our Facebook page, the Tesla Life #1. We'd like to hear from you and see if this is a common issue amongst not just newer cars, but older ones as well, or newer ones and older ones. We'd like to see. So not a big deal, covered under warranty, but it was interesting to hear that they've been replacing a number of them, even here in the new Kitchener Center, which we've got news about as well.
There you go.
So let's get to it because we got a ton of stuff. And first story of the evening is about a little raceway in Germany. Casey's got for us.
The Green Hell. So, if you've been keeping up in Tesla Land, they actually had a pair of Plaid prototypes on the Nurburgring, and the news has been coming so fast and furious. But basically, it's got a wider body, it's got vents for the front brakes. It had a diffuser spoiler combo going on the rear, and then this afternoon we got shots of it with a massive wing, like you'd find on.
Exactly. Massive is an understatement.
Yes, and also one of them crashed. It slipped off the track and hit a guardrail in the rain. But that's why they test these things on a closed course with professional drivers, so they can push the vehicles to the max and learn everything they can before they hit the streets. And that way it'll continue to be safe for all of us. And some of the folks who've seen them run say that the Model S Plaid A and B are more like race cars than they are like street cars. And there is a significant difference between them of anywhere from 5 to 20 seconds, depending on each run and what they're testing. And so speculation is that either that they're trying different options to figure out what to give us, or that there may be a maximum Plaid and maybe a SpaceX package or Ludicrous Plus equivalent to the Insane Mode equivalent of Plaid, which is pretty cool.
Yeah. So again, A and B cars running the circuit. So they got two cars, and one hit a guardrail. So that'll have to go through some body work, I'm sure, to get it back in shape to run the course. Just a little bit. Yeah, just a couple panels, I'm sure.
They might not even fix it as long as the aerodynamics are good.
That's right. That's all that matters. It doesn't matter if the car looks pretty. It's just got to flow through the air efficiently.
Yes.
Exactly.
Well, they uncovered the autopilot cameras when they did the run with all the other automakers. That was not officially timed. It was hand timed by somebody that wasn't Tesla. They had covered up every single autopilot camera, all 8 of the exterior cameras. Well, all the cameras on
just with tape, or
with black electrical tape.
Yeah. That's interesting.
I thought.
Why would they have to cover? Like, is that an aerodynamic drag?
The
little divots for the camera? Like, come on.
There were still divots. I think it was either to end speculation that autopilot did it, or maybe somebody couldn't say that they were using autopilot cameras to time the car or something to that effect.
Okay.
Yeah. Because they were not supposed to do.
Well, they said they were returning this month, so we will see if they can lay down a time now that a couple cars are running the circuit.
And they've also expanded the supercharger at the Green Hill. It's now 4 bays or 8 bays.
It was
It was
three,
two, yeah,
wasn't it?
three,
Three with one didn't work.
something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So now they're up to four.
Yep.
Okay. Hmm.
Cool.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Next story we've got is a little bit about commissions ending at Tesla retail galleries or locations. There was a story in Electric that talked a little bit about the commission ending and salaries and being increased, along with more stock options for the representatives that are selling the cars. So again, it used to be a split between salary and commission. And when that big kerfuffle happened where Elon said they were going to close a number of locations, there was talk about the commission changing at that point as well. And there was a few things about not receiving commission, the salary not going up. But this is another change in how things are being operated at a store level or a location level, and this is just another change that Tesla is known for. They're tweaking the system all the time. They're feeling that this is a better way to go at this point. We're not sure if that is the case. We're not sure what people think at the local level that are being affected by this. But because traditionally car sales are very heavy on commission sales as opposed to even salary.
Sure.
So Tesla's going the opposite way here, going to 100% salary and the addition of some stock options. So we will see. And actually, based on what happened in aftermarket trading today, having stock would be a good idea today. But we'll get to that story a little bit later.
Yeah, it's as if when Toyota shipped out of the factory, like they had left a little Kaizen manual on the desk before Elon got in.
Absolutely, might have leafed through that at one point. Yes.
Yeah.
Another story that we were covering from earlier in the week was a number of course, cars are always spotted leaving Fremont or on the highways as they're being delivered, and they're in open car carriers, so they're not disguised at all. And what started to appear is the Model 3 started to show up with gray wheels, which was a surprise. And shortly after some of those pictures were taken and shared on social media feeds, the website updated overnight, and sure enough, you can now order your Model 3 with gray wheels. So the standard Sport that we have been seeing in silver all to this point is now available in a dark gray. So that is another option that showed up just recently. And looks good. It looks, but maybe I'm partial. My Model 3 has gray wheels already, dark gray, because I've got the standard Aero wheels without the covers, and those are a darkish gray color as well. So I thought they looked good as they sit, and now you can get the 19-inch Sport wheels in that same color.
Yeah, my Model X has 20-inch gray wheels as well. So these are the performance edition. So they used to be 20-inch silvers. It's the exact same material. It's just now instead of being painted silver, it's painted a dark gray, which you might think would actually hide your brake dust, but it actually just changes the color of your brake dust. It makes it, yeah,
a little more cloudy, doesn't it?
A little cloudier.
Yeah.
Instead of like a dark black color, they're more of a light brown color, but it still makes it so you don't have to wash them as often, but they are not going to be. It's not invisible. And the other interesting thing is that now, since these are 20s and I have 20s, it makes them the same size as the Model X as far as diameter. It's pretty cool.
Wow. So again, you get the lower profile tire but the larger rim. So yes. Very nice, very nice. So those are the 20-inch, not the 19 as I reported. It's correct. Okay. It's 20s.
Well, you reported it right. Just they have so many different names.
Actually, they tried to change the Sport title to something else. I remember at the beginning too, like it went to Stiletto or something.
Yes,
crazy.
They did.
Yeah, yeah.
High heels.
So it's like, come on, stop changing things around. It's too many names. Is absolutely correct. So along with that spotting of the Model 3 new type of wheels, many people have started to see another version of the car running around the plant. And what's that, Casey? What are you
They
seeing
sure
leaving?
have. So everybody had said that the Model S had looked like somebody stuck a Tropicana straw in the top and puffed some air into it like the Martian Man. Well, the Model Y looks more like that has been done to the Model 3 than the Model X did to the Model S. And we've been seeing the Model Y pop up everywhere, even all the way up in Canada, which
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
amazing.
How did
Yeah,
that happen? I don't know.
they drove it. Sometimes it's under a cover, sometimes it's not. Again, on open car carriers, but not the full double deck. These are the what do you call it, 4.5, 5 car carriers,
Right.
the bottom level,
Yeah.
with the ones that don't have a top. And you've seen them driving under their own power, supercharging. And on today's conference call, Elon said that, and in the shareholder letter, it looks like they are going to attempt to get those out for the summer of 2020 instead of the end of 2020.
Right. So almost a 2-quarter speed up in production of the Model Y, which is fantastic for people that have their orders in. That's got to be really exciting news to possibly get their vehicle half a year early.
Exactly. And Elon thinks that it will outsell Model S, Model X, Model 3 combined just in Model Y sales
That's crazy
worldwide.
numbers.
It
That
is.
is crazy numbers. Now, we know that Elon sometimes may, jump ahead and say things certain, but they expect this to be huge. They really expect this to be their number one seller.
Yeah, and I think most of us on the panel here did, not just us today, but like the people who are always on the panel. I think most of us thought that too, because in America, the compact crossover is way more popular than the sedan. You have Ford and Chevy and, well, all of GM and a bunch of other manufacturers are dropping their sedans.
Yeah.
And so that's the most popular segment right now, and it's approachable. It's starting at in the 40s rather than starting in the 70s to almost 80s like the Model X. So
Right, right. So they've been spotted around Fremont and, of course, other areas, as you mentioned. Different colors out there. I know the red
yeah,
was a bit of a sensation. That's the
it
first, the
was.
red one that was spotted. And we've got people that are filming on different highways as they're going by. So yeah, it's great to see. And that was the rumor
Yeah,
just earlier in the week that there could be a production push up based on that. And we got confirmation in the earnings call tonight
yeah.
that that is definitely the case.
I'm glad they did too, because the rumors were insane. They were thinking that it was going to start at the next quarter, which are in time for quarter 1 of 2020, which is insane because you still need time to cold test it, hot test it, and crash test it.
Yes, yes.
But quarter 2 is super fast and still awesome. And I think I said that they were camouflaged when I meant when I said camouflage, I meant car covers, like the that you put on like when you're gonna leave your car for a while to keep the dust off.
Right.
Not that they had actually put stuff on it like they did when the Model X was testing to make it look like something else. They are completely undisguised.
Yeah, like that's something that Tesla has done right from the Model 3 forward,
Yeah,
is that once the prototype is made, they're not really hiding anything. They just get it out there and they're doing their actual real world testing, recording what's going on, and they don't care who sees it. It seems.
yeah. I mean,
Um,
because you get
there
accurate
was
air. Go ahead.
there was that one amusing picture that someone caught a Model 3 at a supercharger in the real world, and they didn't disguise the car, but the two guys driving it were wearing like ZZ Top beards and sunglasses, and they disguised themselves, not the car. So that was hilarious when that happened.
Yeah, well, it allows them to get accurate aerodynamics and accurate all the other measurements. And if all they're changing is the stuff on the inside, and the outside looks like what they showed us, then it saves them hours and money on these camouflage.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. And absolutely, just really a waste of time for them, since the model in effect is pretty well locked down at that point. There might be some minor changes, tweaks, but
yeah.
really the shape and design isn't going to really change all that much. So they don't even bother doing the camouflage thing.
Kind of like Honda, except that Honda does the camouflage thing. It's part of the industry game. But like once you see a Honda prototype, they've already finished the actual thing, and then they just kind of clad it up and make it pretty, take the mirrors off, and,
Yeah,
and then the other one is ready to go at that point once you've seen the prototype,
exactly.
the
Exactly.
concept.
Next story is a little bit about the Tesla pickup and its tie-in with Mars. Yeah, how does that
Yeah,
happen?
how does that?
What happened is that the Inside EVs had shared this story, and we'll see if we can bring the screen up for everyone to see. And what they've done here is Elon has talked about how this truck is going to be a Blade Runner version, something that would be at home in a Blade Runner movie. It's going to be a cybernetic type looking. And then the last comments he made about the truck most recently was that its utility is more of like a troop carrier. It's more of a very much a utility vehicle as opposed to a standard truck that you would see today. Now, Inside EVs did this article, talked a little bit about one of the pictures of a utility vehicle that was in this Mars photo. They're not saying that the truck is going to look like this, but they're wondering if the cab, if the windows, if the sight lines are going to have some connection with this. And it's a bit of a far off thing, but as we've seen with Elon, he loves to throw in little Easter eggs all over the place. And of course, this was put out quite some time ago. And if some of the design elements were to match this vehicle, that wouldn't be too surprising to us, based on how Elon operates. So kind of interesting. It's a little bit far off. Not sure if it's obviously it's not going to be as this vehicle looks like it could run on the Arctic tundra. It's so far off the ground. Obviously it's going to look a little bit more standardized, but it was an interesting article that we thought we would bring up because it is something that could possibly happen, or parts of it could certainly happen.
Yeah. When you look at the specs he gave, I mean, it might end up having to be something like that to actually.
Yeah, like when you talk about having room for 6, and it's air air suspension, being able to raise off the ground, and having the utility of being able to plug in different 120 volt or 240 volt,
he said, yeah.
appliances to cutters, welders, whatever. This is going to be a very untypical vehicle, and I'm just dying to see it. We're waiting for November, we think, is when Elon said November would be the unveiling most likely. Yeah. So something certainly to look forward to in the next month or so. Be really interesting to see what this vehicle is, because he's already said it's going to be polarizing. You're going to love it, you're going to hate it. There's not going to be a lot of in between. And
I wonder if there's anybody who's going to hate it, but it's going to be perfect for them, and so they're going to get it anyway. And then maybe the looks will grow on you. I don't know.
Well, maybe. I know that a lot of people saw when the Rivian came out.
Yes.
There was a number of people that were polarized by the light set on that truck and how it looked up front.
I still don't like the stadium lights on the front of that, but they're growing on me. They're practical, and I just don't think they fit the design language of the rest of the vehicle.
And it wasn't that too long ago when the Model 3, the grille-less Model 3 came out, and everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, what's going on there?" And it's certainly growing on all of us on the panel here with the total Tesla Life group. We've certainly grown to love that styling. But almost like anything, you got to get used to it first, and then sometimes it grows on you.
There was a aftermarket company that put the original nose back on the Model 3, and like I'm looking at pictures of it, I'm like, ugh. Like the one they gave us is like perfect. It's growing on me that much. Yeah.
Absolutely. So well, time will tell about whether it's a Mars rover or something in between, but we haven't got much longer to wait.
Indeed.
Next story. A Wisconsin taxi company out of Madison has decided to go all Model 3 with its vehicles, changing from Prius to the Model 3 and buying a fleet of 20 of them to start operations. No, obviously continue operations. They're a company that's been in Madison for quite some time, and this is the next step for them, going from a hybrid now to a fully electric taxi cab. So fantastic news. Great to see another company taking the all-electric route and using the Model 3 for another purpose, another commercial purpose. We saw police cars. We've seen them going to cities, being used by city staff. And this is the first taxi cab company that has bought in mass. Obviously, there's a few taxi groups out there that have bought individual cars, or the taxi owners, that is their car of choice within a fleet. But this is a company making the jump as a whole and pushing everybody into the electric vehicle completely. So fantastic to see.
And it's good for the customers too. I mean, because in pictures, if you haven't seen a Model 3 in person yet, they look small, but they are huge. And so if you're coming from a Prius, you're going to get more legroom, more cargo room. Obviously, it's not a hatchback anymore. So the Model Y will actually even increase that. And it's cleaner, it's peppier. It's like I saw the other day, I saw the Model 3 parked next to a large Lexus sedan. I want to say probably like the Toyota Avalon frame. And the Model 3 part next to it was bigger. Like it made the Lexus look small, even though when you look at the pictures, the Model 3 looks like a Civic. It's not. It's huge.
Yeah, it's that cabin on the inside being pushed forward and back a little bit, giving you all that extra room on the inside. It's deceiving because, of course, you don't need all that extra room up front for a engine and transmission. It just drops away, and you get to use that for interior space going forward.
Exactly. And then it's got to be wide to fit those batteries. So.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's a great fit for a taxi cab because, of course, that's what you're looking for is interior space with a taxi. So we'll see how successful this is, and if some other taxi cab companies follow suit.
We shall.
Oh, and the other thing is this Madison taxi company has decided that they're going to update the roof of their property and put on solar to help with the cost of electricity as well. So not sure if they're going to have some superchargers built in or if it'll just be, fast chargers that they can get, the fastest L2 and the highest voltage they can put on. But they did mention about the updating the property to hold a number of solar panels to supplement the electricity costs.
Yeah, I was talking to a guy who said that the Tesla's making it a little bit harder to buy the 60 kilowatt superchargers that they used to sell. I don't think he said it was a straight up no, but they were just making it unappealing, and so he's going to look and see if he wants to do that or CHAdeMO. But I think that would still be faster than CHAdeMO, so that everything works out.
I didn't realize they still had a program where you could get the 60 supercharger.
They're probably ramping it. They're probably ramping it up with a version 3 out.
Yeah,
get rid of those Gen 1s.
Exactly. Next story is wanted to touch on one that Frans, of course, the chief designer of Tesla, was recently on Ride the Lightning podcast with Ryan, and it was an interesting listen to his design history, where he came from, how he got involved with Tesla and Elon, and his evolution within Tesla of starting with the Model S was his first design, and then moving through the subsequent different versions of cars. What I found interesting was that he was asked, looking at all the cars and trucks at this point that you've designed, what in the stable you have, what is your favorite? And his answer was the Model S always holds a special place in his heart because it was the start. But what he really enjoys is his favorite car is always the next one. And that's spoken like a true designer.
Yeah.
Someone that loves to move on to another challenge, someone that loves to move into a new venue like a semi, which of course he's never had any connection with a semi before, working at Mazda and GM previously. But it was real interesting to hear his insights into the industry, into Tesla's, I guess, mantra that they don't want to, they always want to make the best car for what they're after. They don't have to add certain pieces to it to make it look like a Tesla. They want to always just have the best design for what they were after at that particular point in time.
I liked that point when he said that. Yeah, that and it was awesome to hear him talking about the semi truck because he's the guy who made the Saturn Sky and the Pontiac version of it, and obviously the Model S, Model X, and Model Y, and the Roadster, and like it's just listening to him talk about it. I need to go back and re-listen to it. Something was up with my audio; it wasn't as punchy as it could have been, but what I did hear was phenomenal.
And what's also interesting is that of course it's different in a traditional auto manufacturer where they will make prototypes, and then the prototypes will maybe never see the light of day beyond the trade show, and then it disappears, or it may get picked up and made, or it may be vastly different from the prototype. But in Tesla's case, they are building the actual roadworthy prototype, and it gets made regardless. Now, he mentions that there's always some iteration, some moving forward of that design as they're going through the roadworthy tests. As we saw with the Model 3, he mentioned about the front lip of the car changing. He mentioned about, of course, the trunk getting larger, them having to rework it to get a larger opening. And he said that those type of things are after they've started to field test the car and get some other feedback from others that are actually out driving it besides just themselves. So they're collecting that data, that information, which is probably what they're doing with the Model Y as we speak. With those multiple cars driving across the country, they get that feedback, and they may make design tweaks here and there to make the car better. And he even mentioned, the tweaks to the Model S over time. So they don't just stop at release. They still continue to find little things that make it better, to change a part, to modify a little bit of the look, while still, obviously still keeping the vast majority. But they're always tweaking the car going forward. Even the Model 3, the Model S, after all these years, it's still being tweaked as today.
Yeah, the Model S especially, but I mean, even the Model X has had like little bits here and there that have been changed, and he talked a little bit about how that vehicle was to work on, and it sounded like it took a lot of his life.
It does sound like they really went overboard, maybe a little bit beyond what they should have done. Although he doesn't admit that, he just says he mentioned the Fabergé egg analogy, which Elon has mentioned before during the podcast. Now, Ryan from the podcast, he tried to get a few tidbits out of Frans, but Frans wasn't biting. He kept the company line. He didn't talk about the pickup, which they were actually doing the interview, I believe, in the design studio. So he would have been only a few hundred feet from the pickup with a wall between them, but didn't mention anything about. He said you will enjoy the unveiling much more if you know nothing about it. So great interview. If you've got the time, it's about half an hour long. The interview itself suggests that you take a listen. We'll put the notes available. With the link will be in the notes for you to see if you would like.
Yeah, it was very similar to the Elon interview, but much shorter.
Exactly. Next story, a little bit about the Boring Company. Equipment has arrived in Las Vegas. So we now have a tunnel boring machine has arrived. We're not sure which one it is, if it's the hybrid or the original. that the boring company had here in Fremont. But some equipment has arrived, and it was pictured at the side of the road. And another piece of information about that convention center loop in Las Vegas was released, and it is that the stations are going to be above ground.
Oh.
So we're not going to have an elevator. We're not going to have a possible backlog of vehicles waiting to come up on an elevator. Instead, we're going to most likely have some sort of ramps at both ends where the vehicle descends into the tunnel and then pops out of the tunnel at the desired location. So
it's still going to have a trash can next to
what
would have been the escalator.
We hope that trash can is there, which was in the original drawings. We jest, but they decided to include trash cans in the design. So we will have to see if that trash can arrives. But again, another piece of information about the build. And again, we don't know what this is going to be. Like, besides a tunnel, we don't know what's going to drive through the tunnel. We don't know if it's going to be a series of Model X's, if it's going to be a single car, if it's going to be something on a track, if it's going to be on autopilot. Like, this is all up in the air. And as we get pieces, we'll certainly share it with you, the viewing audience. And of course, if you want to follow us through the week and see what's happening through the week, you can follow us on our Twitter feed at the Tesla Life, and you can also follow us on our Facebook feed, the Tesla Life #1. And we post all throughout the week and try to keep you people updated as we receive information.
You people. I think it might be articulated Model X's. So you'll have the front, right, where it's got the cabin and the big sky windshield, all that, right? And then you'll have wings after wings after wings.
So it's going to be a stretch limo Model X. Is
Model X train, yes.
Yeah. I have no idea. I just can't see some of it working. I'm hoping it's going to be something a little bit different than just maybe 3 Model X's running in convoy mode. Yeah. But man, I'm at a loss. I don't know how this is going to work.
And we jest about the trash can, but for those of you guys who saw it, literally the only thing that was clear in the picture, other than the silhouette of a human, there'd be people there, was the trash can was clear as day. Everything else was just a mystery.
I think there was even a measurement on the trash can, but. Whatever. We'll see as more information comes to light. We'll definitely share it with the viewers here and listeners, of course.
Sure.
Next, as you might have noticed, we didn't have a show last week. It turns out that, as mentioned, I was fortunate enough to have a vacation planned, and part of that vacation was driving across the country and driving from the Toronto area of Ontario all the way to San Diego. I met with our co-host, Russell. I was there for a couple of days and then worked my way up the coast and ended up in Fremont, where I had the pleasure of having a tour booked at the Tesla factory in Fremont. So went through an actual, I guess, the planned tour, about 45 minutes. And then after that, went to the San Francisco Bay Area, did some sightseeing, tourist stuff, had some fantastic chili bowl and sourdough bread right there on the waterfront in the marketplace on San Francisco Bay, which was fantastic. And then the day later, made the trek back. So we had an 11-day holiday. It was basically 3 days each way for the drive. And I've got a little graphic here that I can share of the route. Here we go. There. So I went the southern route first. So I hooked up with Route 66, which had always been something I wanted to do. So picked that up in Illinois and basically followed Route 66 all the way into Flagstaff, Arizona, and just had a great time. Some of the things that we saw, certainly classic Route 66 stuff, old diners, gasoline stations, museums. In Texas, visited the Cadillac Ranch. I believe that was Amarillo, Texas. And the Cadillac Ranch is a series of old Cadillacs that are buried, hood down, with the wheels sticking up, and people spray paint them as they go by. So there's this just in a farmer's field in Amarillo, and we caught it out of the corner of our eye as all these people standing in a field. And sure enough, that was Cadillac Ranch. So we turned around, took some photos, and had a great time checking that out. And then further, of course, into the mountains of Arizona, Flagstaff was an incredible drive through some very picturesque mountains that were in that area. A number of scenic roads that cut through them. Certainly was very interesting to do. Me being from Ontario, never seen that type of scenery previously, and took it all in. It was wonderful. And then, of course, the drive along the PCH, love that. Can't get any better than the Pacific Coast Highway from basically, I guess that would be, northern LA all the way up onto just below, just south of San Francisco. Monterey, I believe, was the end of basically the PCH that was facing the ocean. Stopped at that beach with the walruses that are flipping around. There's a whole bunch of walruses that hang out on the beach. That was great. And then, of course, the drive back through Utah, Salt Lake City. What an incredible view at Salt Lake City. Like just before it, when you're going through the Salt Lake, the salt flats that are there, just see for miles. Coming out of that mountain range onto the salt flats was just incredible. And all the way through Nebraska, Iowa, Illinois, and then back into Michigan, and finally crossing at Port Huron, Michigan, into Ontario again. So fantastic time, lots of sights, really enjoyed it. And anyone that hasn't driven Route 66, I would certainly encourage you to try it one time. Maybe not as far as I went, but certainly if you get a chance, take part of it. It's quite interesting to see.
Yeah, I did a similar route to get to LA for the auto show on Route 66, and it was a blast. It was, of course, we were in a hybrid, so fueling was different.
Part of the deal at that point, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, so it was a lot of fun. Had a great time, and I'll just share one other photo here. I was hanging out with the dinosaurs, and thought I would share this photo. So here's the Model 3 hanging out with the dinosaurs along the route. This was, of course, a Sinclair gas station, which their symbol is the Brontosaurus. So okay. They have a number of these models out front of their actual locations. So kind of fun.
So a certain Chicagoan was upset that you didn't swing by.
Oh, I did, but he didn't answer the door.
Okay, so that's what we said. You probably them.
He's got that doorbell thing where he can see who's outside the door, and he could just, as soon as he saw me, I guess he wasn't going to answer. Of course, that's Tony in Chicago. No, I wasn't banging on Tony's door.
Oh, okay.
But we were south of Chicago when we were coming home, and that was the last leg of the journey anyway. So we were kind of trying to make time, get into Ontario before it got too late. So we kind of zoomed through the southern part of Chicagoland on our way back.
Yeah, he suggested you start with him next time.
Yeah, they might do that. Definitely. Indeed. And last story of the evening, of course, is the most recent story. Breaking was the third quarter earnings call happened just a few mere minutes ago. And Casey's going to do a little bit of an update as to what was announced there.
Yes, so they were a half hour late today. This was planned over their usual schedule. And we found out that they set another record quarter. So they produced 96,000 vehicles and delivered 97,000 vehicles. They deployed 477 megawatt hours of energy on their 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 energy department, and they had 48% growth in solar over quarter. And let's see. They mentioned that the Model Y will be going into production this summer, hopefully. And they were making money. Like everybody expected them to lose money, and they
That's
are
right.
making money.
Wall Street had said that they were going to lose, I think it was 26 cents a share. And
Yeah.
they turned around and they made what, a buck something, a buck
Yes.
86, something along that line.
191.
191 per
Or,
share.
or 80 cents if you use the 80 cents gap, 191 non-gap.
Okay.
Yeah. And this is despite they did heavy cost cutting. This is despite the Model 3 leases were up phenomenally. So this the way that leases affect their numbers is they can't count the money all at once, even though they get the check from the bank. They have to stage it out over the full 36 months or 48 months or however long you have the vehicle. And so it makes their numbers look funny, but it's pretty cool.
Yeah, so expected loss turned out to be a surprise profit for the third quarter, and what it was, they talked a little bit about Gigafactory 3 being ahead of schedule still.
Way ahead of schedule. Yes.
So they're doing test runs of production now. And we had a story in our Twitter feed actually about some of those test run production cars being offered to the employees of the Gigafactory for purchase.
Yep, and they had some pictures of Giga 3. Like it's got another huge stamping press like they've got in Fremont, but it looks newer and higher tech. And they got their own paint shop, so you don't have to worry about how they're going to paint the cars. And they mentioned the Gigafactory 4. So that's going to be in Europe. They haven't picked a place yet, or at least they haven't finalized a place yet. And all the Gigafactories except for Fremont are going to be, and Nevada are going to be Model Y and Model 3. Gigafactory 2 will continue to be, Gigafactory 1 will continue to be batteries and powertrains. Gigafactory 3 is solar. Gigafactory 2 is solar.
Fremont That's the Buffalo plant.
The Buffalo plant, yeah. Fremont is technically a Gigafactory. It doesn't. It's not a machine.
It's never called that.
It was never called that. But like,
it's
when you're watching this,
it's Fremont.
It's messed up my numbers because they went back retroactively and started considering it a Gigafactory, and they still don't call it that. It's just Fremont.
No. So interesting to see that they're ahead of schedule. They're doing production runs. And they expect that it will start to produce cars on time and start adding to the bottom line. So when we talked a little bit about, I guess it was 2 weeks ago, about Fremont hitting 7,000 cars in a week, they're thinking that, of course, the Chinese plant's going to add another, initially
1,000 cars.
Yeah, so that's easily in the very beginning it'll be 1,500 cars in a week, right. And then ramp up from there. So that's going to boost the number to 8,500 right out of the gate. So again, I think Tesla's over the hump here. They may have been cash constrained before, but now with these sales and with these new amounts that they're pushing out through the factory, and their profitability is increasing.
Yes.
So we saw a drop 2 quarters ago. Now we've seen an increase in profitability. So they're making more per car with efficiencies.
Yeah, and they've stated that they feel that the business is now self-funded between solar energy department and automobiles. Their annual capacity that they see it right now as it sits is 90,000 Model X's and S's and 350,000 Model 3s out of Fremont, and then 150,000 Model 3s out of China. And they see the market being China at 500,000 vehicles plus per year demand, and Europe is slightly behind at just over 400,000. And these are just for mid-sized premium sedans. We're talking Model 3 here, just Model 3. And the U.S. is just over 300,000, and then the rest of the world is just over 200,000. So they, as they said on the call, they even though they've increased production and reduced costs and do all this stuff, they still can't keep up with the demand. It's incredible, and they predict that Model Y is going to outclass everything else that they make today.
Which is an incredible number. So
It's incredible.
we will see. We're going to be along for the journey and watching from the sidelines. But man, that's an incredible number.
Oh, more news. So the next version of Smart Summon is coming real soon, and tomorrow version 3 of the Solar Roof launches.
Version 3 of the Solar Roof.
Yes, and they said that the new version of Smart Summon is actually going to be based on the improvements that they got from the over 1 million sessions of Smart Summon that we have provided them with.
Excellent. So they're using some of that recorded data to improve it and release another version. That's great, right. Great. And if you're considering upgrading your vehicle to get full self-driving, be aware that as of November the 1st, the price is going up by an extra $1,000. So you have been warned. Yes. If you're after that full self-drive, this is the time to act. Otherwise, you're going to be spending another $1,000 as of November 1st.
And rising. Like he did not back off of that. Somebody had asked him, "Don't you think the price should come down?" Blah blah blah. It was one of the institutional investors, and he said, "No, I'm going to continue to raise the price. There's no reason to drop it." And so, if you're hearing our voice and it's not yet November, and you were thinking about it, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah, might be definitely something to consider.
And he seems like he's like 80 to 90% sure that the feature complete full self drive will be released to at least the testers, the early access program.
Early adopters, yeah.
By the end of the year.
By the end of the year.
Yes.
Okay. Because there was a comment from Zoox, Zoox, which is a autonomous company. We spotted them while we were in San Francisco, actually, one of their cars. They've got LiDAR on all 4 points of the car. Looks like a crazy monstrosity. But the president of that company said there's no way that Elon's going to get to the point of self-driving in 2020. There's not a chance, is what he said. But of course, what else could he say to his investors that he was speaking to, because he knows he's not going to get there by 2020. So he can't say that somebody else is going to get there. That would be, death of a CEO immediately on stage. So, but interesting that many people are chasing this autonomy. But of course, Tesla is the one that has all the data. They have all these cars out on the road, either running in FSD or in background FSD, just collecting data and sharing it. So it's going to be an interesting run. But 2020 is when he said they would start, and that's it could be a full year away. But man, that's still awful close.
Yeah, and he's just saying feature complete, where you'll still have to be there, you'll have to sit there, hold the wheel, but after that, he's given us a year to the point where he feels that he can start applying to get it so we can take our hands off the wheel.
Right.
But I would just love it to be there and be 100% so that we could start to experience the future. Not that we haven't seen the future with our cars, but like imagine what the rest of the future will be like just with the hardware that we've got today.
The other thing I wanted to talk about as a last story tonight was about supercharging. I experienced a ton of supercharging over the past 11 days. And I have to say that the network was remarkable. Right from Ontario all the way to Southern California, up the coast, and then back through the midsection of the country. I would say that 90% of the chargers I went to, I was either alone or with maybe 2 or possibly 3 other cars. The vast majority of time, I would say 60%, maybe 70%, I was the only car there. So the speed was incredible. I was getting, basically, I topped out. If I came in with a low state of charge, something, 8% or a little bit higher, 4%, somewhere in that range, I was getting a top speed of 626 miles was going on the car per hour. And of course, that would ramp down as you got higher, but that would basically limit my stop to maybe 35 minutes. And I was on my way. In fact, there was a couple of situations where I wasn't done, getting some food or taking a break or, going into a store, and I had to go out and move the car, even though, there's no one there. But I wanted to be courteous. I wanted to get the car out of the place if it wasn't being charged. So I tried to do that each and every time. But the supercharger network was fantastic. The only area where it seemed to slow down was in Southern California, where there was a lot more cars.
That's
I was out with Russell and his wife. We went out for an afternoon and a morning, and we went to one supercharger that was only charging at 35, and that was quite low. But I found out the next day when I was leaving that charger was broken to 35. If I had gone up to the upper level, I would have got the 68 or 70 that urban supercharger topped out at.
I figured it was urban.
So I had found a broken urban supercharger that was working. It was just working at a slower speed. But I talked to a local the next day, and they explained that problem. So it's good to move around if you feel that the charge is slow. Anyways, just go and move the car. But different places in Southern California, like San Diego, for example, very busy for cars at these urban chargers. They were placed at, a Target or a mall or in a near a community. And there's a number of people that were charging their S's and X's because they have no place to charge, apparently. Maybe they live in condos. Casey is one of those people.
No.
But it was interesting that Teslas were a dime a dozen in Southern California. Like they were everywhere. Maybe every ninth car was a Tesla. It was just incredible, the amount that were there. And but I can't say enough about the supercharger network. It made the planning of this trip and the actual execution seamless. I didn't have to think about anything. We took a detour. We went to, for example, the Joshua Tree in California off of our original route. Didn't have to think about it. The car knew where the supercharger was next. It knew what the mileage was. It knew when I was going to arrive. It knew the state of charge. And they were all accurate for the entire trip. It was always within minutes or seconds of the original, estimation. They turned out to be very accurate. And that's one of Tesla's biggest advantages is the supercharger network that is so reliable, and you don't have to put in any thought as to whether or not you can get there. It magically lays it out for you and tells you to stick to the plan along the way. It'll tell you you can decrease speed to make a longer distance, or you can speed up and hit an extra charger. Your choice. But it's always calculating and recalculating based on the driver's input.
Definitely.
So,
I think you should bring that up on the next show because Russell seems to think that that 36 is typical somewhere.
Right. And it's certainly, on a broken charger, I guess it's typical. But at
least yours worked. When I get a broken one, it just doesn't work at all.
Yeah, well, at least I got something out of it. Exactly. But that's it for the show tonight. We appreciate everyone watching. If you haven't already, and I didn't even say this at the beginning of the show, but give us a thumbs up. That helps us out. If you haven't subscribed, press that subscribe. It's free. That gives us another number. It really helps us out. And of course, during the week, you can follow us at The Tesla Life on your Twitter feed or on our Facebook feed, The Tesla Life #1. And Mr. Green, you've got something to plug this week, I imagine?
I do. I've actually got a couple supercharger reviews up on the channel. So if you want to see what some of these superchargers are like, just go over to youtube.com/KCEgreen. That's KACEYGREEN. And check out my supercharger review feature. Or any number of other things. Like I've got another video I'm working on now. I need to figure out how to arrange it for what happens when your 12-volt battery needs replacement and you want to summon or smart summon. You can't.
Spoiler. Well, thanks very much for watching this week. We'll see you again next week. And hopefully have yourselves a great week. And we will see you next time. Good night, everybody.
Have a great week.